I don't know why, but I get a sense that in your work environment, you don't really get a chance to talk about your feelings. You don't get it. I mean, like, not professionally wise, but other than profession and all of those crazy concepts that, fleeting around, but actually about yourself, sitting,
Mm,
looking at the window, one spot, and just, understanding all what's going on through your mind. And that's why you've been,
yeah,
it's by my observation, you've been struggling to find a proper or like proper words to explain or to give a good, reasonable answers of some sorts, which is been
yeah,
like, yeah. But that's why I don't really like academia, because it is expected from you to be good at something, like one particular. You are a good piece of this gigantic mechanism. But we don't really give a
right.
shit if you meditate or not, or work out, or go for a run, or just masturbate. Yo, you gotta be on time, 9 o'clock. Monday to Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not
No,
my
that's
style.
actually
Yeah.
that's a fantastic point. I at one point I was going to these like therapy sessions, right? These were actually really great. It was like men's group therapy, right? So over like you have a bunch of people kind of get together and you just talk about what your experience has been being a man in this world, and like usually you just kind of do day-to-day check-ins, but we start to elaborate on certain problems. And I've always considered myself to be, in some ways, expressive. Like I feel like I can wear my emotions on my sleeve. When I'm uncomfortable, it's very clear. When I'm comfortable, it's very clear. When I'm excited, it's very clear. But exactly as you're saying, it can be really difficult for me to articulate my emotions. And at one point, the person that was like leading these sessions asked me a question, to describe like a thing that I had encountered. I forgot exactly what it was, but it was something that didn't feel right, that didn't feel good. And I thought I described it, and then he goes, you described all like the things surrounding the issue, but you never told us like what your emotions were. Right? You're not really um, you're not providing us what you're not even like comfortable with naming that emotion for yourself, which I found really interesting and really apt. I've always thought that you hear those kinds of things about men sometimes, right? And I've always thought that that was just a thing that you voluntarily turn on or off, and that's just something that I've like kept off, and it's like it is what it is. And when I want to express something, I can. But in that moment, I realized that okay, well, let me try it again, and I tried articulating it, and he was like, "No, you did the same thing." Like there's an actual barrier, right? Like I don't know how to say it. That's such a weird thing to encounter. Um, so
I got,
that's very astute of you to pick up on. That's completely
it's
on
very,
point.
you know what? It's very egotistical, in some levels from your side. And I
Mm,
gotta be really clear because I am the opposite person of yours. My emotions are open free access. Anyone could ask me, how did I feel when I was meditating yesterday? I initially started talking about it like to all people because I want to divide these responsibilities, and you've been putting it on your shoulders, because the act, when you're speaking about something, a problem, an issue, like, I don't know, a rabbit hole that you got into, is you kind of share, you split the responsibility of that thing between an interlocutor, a person that you're talking to, and yourself. So as it's a practical reason for that, because it's easier now to accept, and maybe you would invoke some emotions in other person, or maybe you just ignore that. And it's
mm,
also another emotion, because as long as you're in this conversation and you're basically trying to elaborate, as meant to create, to rather produce that emotion out of all describe things you just said. It's kind of hard, man, because you don't even know where to start. You were not asked to do that. That's the second point. The third one is just, yo, you not just thinking about the response, but actually how you gonna respond to that one. Once your emotion being exposed to the world, what's the other emotion that's leading
Mm.
to that? What is the follow-up emotion? So that's how I feel.
Hmm.
And sometimes it actually be like my fucking idea how to be more humble and not sharing all stuff that I experience. Because for example, real close one, we had an argument with Tarek about UFC fighting, and I don't know why, but I got a stupid idea in my head, and I didn't know how to solve it. I tried to articulate it, but I still didn't find the way how to get rid of it, how to get over it. And I just shared the story to my friend. And he was like, yo, that's very easy. La 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 la. I was like, yeah, that's right. Not by the answer he gave to me, but the thing that I don't know, like cracked down at some point that I was just like, oh, hold on a second. I just share it. It's not only on my shoulders now. It's fine. It's not a burden anymore. And then I came back to Tarek. I shared it with him about my rabbit hole on him. So he goes like, yo, I'm glad you fixed it. And I was like, boom, zero emotions now, I'm, following and going forward. That's how I feel, man. And oftentimes I don't know, we've never met, but I just get this personal, intimate feeling that
Hmm.
once you start to elaborate more to a certain person or like to a group of people, like you just said, you guys have this group meetups, you start to notice
Hmm.
that actually it's not even common between all of those, people, but actually in those feelings, you start to recognize yourself, your site, your signature, and you gotta
Hmm.
feel proud because you produce that emotion. You gotta like it's not that
Interesting.
fancy all the times, but it's just like, wow, actually, my brain got me into that. You start to reflect on it, and then emotion
Hmm.
comes, like this. So that's how I feel about sharing. And
And
I've been having like,
that,
yeah,
yeah.
go ahead. Yeah, I'm finished. I'm
Sorry,
done.
the lag is making it.
Yeah,
No,
that's
that's such a beautiful description, and it's funny, like hearing you talk about that and watching my response to it because, okay, like that is such it's a beautiful description, and the first thing that I wanted to respond with was an intellectualization of what you were mentioning, like what I wanted to dive into, and I think that this is like super interesting. It's just like how sophisticated our minds are, right? To be able to, like you said, like manifest emotion. That seems like such a crazy thing, but that's almost besides the point of what you were saying, right? This is me being at all of the complexity of it and like um, wanting to just like I don't know, like rant on about that and like maybe dive into some of the details of it and talk a little bit about the neuroscience that's going on there and how is that bridged, like how fascinating that is, and all of that is again just like that's getting away from the actual emotions of what we were being of what was being discussed, right?
exactly,
So why
exactly.
is that? And yeah, that's something that I've been exploring a little bit further. I think one thing is and I failed to name this earlier when I was kind of describing all the things that I like to do to kind of keep myself moving forward. Is I think I really, while there's a genuine curiosity and I really enjoy working on things, I find it exhilarating, find it comforting. Um, that is the mode that I like to exist in. At the same time, I think that I also really like judge myself, value myself um, based on like how productive I feel, right? And so that I think is a little bit of a distorted valuing system. Um, it can serve me in a great way in that it can just like drive me like I could be my own feedback loop and just like push really hard in one direction. But that's probably not like the happiest place that I can be. And my partner has actually she's been fantastic about uh, giving me the space and the feedback to kind of correct that a bit and to become a little bit more of a balanced person. Um, still trying to find what the proper balance is,
Exactly.
but
It's very
not
it's needed, man.